Hi guys, I am doing a brand new release stamp from Blue Night Rubber Stamps. This is called Mama Bear and Her Friends. And I love the silhouette images, especially for this time of year when we're going to be making holiday cards, winter cards, Christmas cards. You have hunting season coming up, so you have this cute little wolf and baby wolf howling. You know, I'm going to love making a moon scene with that. You have a doe and a deer, a doe and a buck, and then you have this little penguin family, and then you have Mama Bear and her little cubs here, and then you have a larger Mama Bear and her cubs, and immediately as soon as I saw that, I thought Northern Lights. So I started to get out some glossy paper. The glossy paper I'm using is from Marco's Paper. It's called Digital Gloss Cover. It is not the same as photo paper. I don't know how to explain it to you, but it is glossy on both sides. It is a paper. But it's called, in here you can see you get 50 sheets for $4.25. Now, I may have had this. Their price may have gone up a little bit. But I just wanted to show you what the paper was. Okay. So, I already made a couple of backgrounds. So, let me show you guys what I did. And I started using my little color box stylus tools and little sponges. You may have seen me do a video last year with a kind of Northern Lights look, and I used these guys. But I switched over, and it's been a little easier for me, to the Tim Holtz Distress tools. And I'll show you how I made the background. So this one I did with some teal, some pink, and some dark blue. I will name the colors for you in just a second. And then on this one, see, we're getting a little better here. I had some issues with stamping, and I used the VersaFine Clair, you know, my go-to ink, but it's kind of sticking on the top of the paper. It's not really drying. Can you see some of the little bubbles and imperfection there? And I could go back and do some heat embossing on here, but I really want to find an ink that's going to stick, right? So there's that one. And so this one you'll see is the one that came out the best so far, and I used some pinks and some blues on this one. And what I did was I went to some StazOn. I also have a little Fantastics here that I can kind of fill in some of those spots. So let's make a background and work on this and see what we can do. I'm going to put these guys aside to dry. We don't want smeary inks. This is a messy project. You can see there is ink all over my fingers. So be warned. Okay, so I have a piece of that gloss cardstock, and I brought in some new colors here. I want to add this lemon lime twist. This is a retired color from Stampin' Up. The rest of these inks are current. If you don't have a Stampin' Up demonstrator, I can put my link for you. But I wanted to start with this lime green, and then I'm also using Night of Navy, Bermuda Bay, and Melon Mambo. So we are using a green, a teal, a navy, and a fuchsia. Okay. All right. So I want to go in with this one, this really light lime green, and I'm kind of just gonna put it on there. And like I said, this color has now been retired, but I'm sure you have other inks that you can use. Now for the base coat, I just kind of want to coat the whole paper. It doesn't matter where. Think of like when we do galaxy backgrounds. I'm just kind of putting the color down. It doesn't matter where it goes. Doesn't have to be perfect, because we're going to ultimately blend some of this out. We're going to put darker colors over it. And you want to try to keep your fingers off of it if you can, because your finger will transfer that ink. Ask me how I know. Okay, so then I kind of decide which part I want to be the top and which part I want to be the bottom. And For the bottom, I kind of am going to take this Night of Navy and I'm going to pull it upwards. So I want, well, it doesn't really matter which is the top and which is the bottom. I'm being kind of careful here to get it on the edge, and then I tilt my distress tool at an angle so I get this kind of streaky look. Because if you leave it flat, you get that circular motion from the distress tool. Not that you can't eventually rub that out, but I want it to be kind of streaky, but kind of organic, so you don't want it to be perfect. You're going to have some colors peeking through. And then I'm going to go in with the Bermuda Bay, which is a little bit darker teal, and I'm going to do that. This is kind of rainbowy looking here. It's not exactly what I was going for. We're going to have to tone this down a lot. Okay, and what's nice is this gloss paper will take a lot of ink, so I'm going to ink the edges here, just slightly doing the edges, and then going to go back in again and kind of streak my darker colors in there. And this actually is a product where the heavier handed you are, really kind of the better it looks. The more inks you layer, the better it looks. It really does. I'm actually going to kind of do like a wave this way. Because there's no rhyme or reason with Northern Lights. They're just streaks of light that look really pretty. Ooh, I kind of like that. I think I'm not going to mess with that too much. I'm going to kind of blend some of this in over here using some Bermuda Bay. And I'm just taking from the middle of the card and pulling up. So I'm taking some of that streakiness out and blending it. Can you see how that's less streaky? Now here I do want some of that. You want some areas where there's streaks that come through. You want some of that darker shade. So I'm going to go back in with the Night of Navy and pull some of that through a little bit here. You want different heights. You want some to go up, some to kind of come down. Ooh, I think I'm going to leave that one alone. Okay, so that one looks pretty darn good, I think. I'll take a little more of this lime green. Put a little bit of that back in here. And a little bit of the pink back over here. Ooh, sorry, bumped the camera. Okay, so I think we're done with the inking part. This soaks up the ink pretty quickly, so the ink is now traveling down into the paper, so it does layer pretty nicely. All right, so now we would get into stamping. I'm just going to take some of this darker. Okay, because we want it to kind of look like snow reflecting those colors off, right? All right, so I have my bears mounted in my Mini Misty. I'm going to put that in, that's the bottom, put that on top. Okay, and we're going to go in with the Stays On ink. You don't want to put a heavy layer for your first layer because you really want this to get in and soak. So you're going to see I don't have this like as saturated with ink because I really want this first layer to stick. And I found when I was using the other inks, the ink was sitting on top of the paper and it wasn't soaking in and it wasn't giving me a good impression. It wasn't because of the stamp, it's just because of the type of paper we're using and the ink that it just takes a while. So StazOn ink, because it dries fairly quickly, made it a little easier. Alright, so we don't have complete impression there. You'll see there's some spots there. That's okay. I'm going to very quickly hit it with the heat tool and dry it. Okay. Now I'm going to clean my stamp off because I don't want that ink pulling up and giving those bubbles on the image when it's stamping. So I'm going to clean it off real good. And I just use some Hero Arts Ultra Clean on there. Silhouette images are very easy to stamp with. You just have to know the right paper and the right ink. Always using a stamping positioner will help you out because most of the time, in order to get full coverage, you do need to stamp it a couple of times. Okay, so this is getting there. It's still a little tacky, but it's not too bad. Yes, I did try the archival ink, and it's same thing. It just didn't dry as fast, which is why I switched over to the StazOn ink. Okay, so we're going to go back in with the StazOn again. Take our little lid there. And again, just a light layer of ink. You want to cover the stamp, but you don't want it over inked. You do not want to oversaturate your image because we're going to stamp this a couple times. So any spots that you miss, we'll get back to it. I want to give that ink time to adhere and slide over. I think I like this one the best. Adding that lime green really made it pop. And again, the colors were Lemon Lime Twist, which is now retired from Stampin' Up, Bermuda Bay, Night of Navy, and Melon Mambo. Okay, and you can already see with the second stamping there that we got a much better image on Mama Bear. Still a couple spots. The two babies need a little more work, but definitely better already. Again, from a higher, quickly, I'm going to heat set it. I'm not going to have my heat holding. I'm going to hold the gun up, and I'm quickly going to wave it across. We don't want our paper to warp. Oops. I'm going to clean the stamp off again. I'm going to make sure that we get all of the little debris off of there. You know, if you have glitter on your desk, if you have embossing powder on your desk, if all that stuff gets picked up and transferred onto your stamp, it will show on a silhouette stamp when you go to stamp it. It really needs to be really clean. Okay. Alright, so I think for this one we can add a little bit more ink. We really want to get in and fill the areas in now. There's not too much. We have the baby bears, and then really just a little bit on Mama Bear. Okay, so I have full coverage ink on here now. You can also heat emboss if you're real quick about it. Again, this paper has a gloss to it, so you don't want to use too much heat embossing on it because you don't want it to warp. I think that looks pretty good. All right, so for the majority of the stamp is stamped out pretty good. All right, so what I want to do for the blank spots that didn't fill in, I don't want to keep stamping it. Here I'm going to take my Stays On. I'm going to open that up. I'm just going to take my little Fantastics tool. It's just basically a little sponge. And I'm going to dip that into the ink, and very carefully I'm just going to dab on the bears where it didn't fill in all the way. It's very little spots right here. I think that's it. Let me see. Let me just hold it up here. Oh, a little bit in Mom's legs. Now, what you want to do, if you want to add a little extra dimension here, I was going to add some like translucent glitter on the ground here to make it look like snow. I might still do that actually. To see how I feel it's going to look. Because that glitter would represent, you know, it would reflect that snow. So by using transparent glitter, it'll come through. So I'm going to set this one aside to dry, and I'll show you on one of the other ones. I think this one's my favorite though. I really like the lime green in there. Okay, so here are the two that I did earlier. And what I was going to do was show you guys this part here where I just took that Fantastic stick again, and I just went in and I added a ground. So I just took it, I streaked it across here. So now we have this solid black image ground. So you can do that. Okay, and again, you just want to let that dry a moment. This one's the one I did in the VersaFine ink, and VersaFine Clear ink, and it didn't fill in all the places. I could go in with the VersaFine and fill it in. It's just really kind of bubbly here. Kind of cool having that texture though, because it does look like fur then instead of it being so flat. All right, so I think for this one I'm going to try to add glitter to this one and see what I think about it. So we have some glitter here. Let me find a glue pen. Grab a piece of paper. Where is my trusty zig? Zig, 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 ah. Where is my zig? Can't go wrong with a zig glue pen. But you gotta remember where you put it first. Oh, here it is. There we go. Okay. Okay. Let's glitter this up. I'm going to try to keep the glitter towards the bottom because I don't want it sticking to any of that ink. Oops. And then when that dries, it'll look like snow. And then we can put a nice winter sentiment on there, holiday sentiment on there. I think it looks pretty cool now. My little bears got glitter on their feet, so I'm just going to take a brush and brush some of that off. That's because the ink is still wet. Alright, and then we're just going to set that aside to dry. I'm going to put our glitter back in the jar. There's my glitter brush. Okay, so let me show you guys what we made again. So we have the plain one with the ground just drawn in with the ink. And this one was with the Melon Mambo and the Night of Navy colors. This one we put the glitter on the ground. And this one was with Bermuda Bay and Melon Mambo. I don't think I put, if I put any Night of Navy on here, it's very little. I will go back in later and put a little more Night of Navy in the sky there. Okay. And then my favorite one is the one we just did that has the lime green in there. And I think what I'll probably do is once this ink is dry, I'm going to see how this glitter turns out. But I think I'm going to do that same thing on this card here. Okay, so let me know if you guys like this Northern Lights technique. You can put your comments down below on if you like it better with or without the glitter. I'll show you guys that there. And again, you can get this stamp. It's called Mama Bear and Friends. And I use the larger stamp here, but again, you get all of these stamps. This is from Blue Night Rubber Stamps. I will link this down below for you. Any questions or comments, put them down below. I do always read my comments and answer the questions to the best of my ability. If you like this video, I appreciate your thumbs up. And as always, keep on stamping. Bye-bye.